Hope you're getting enlightened. Peace with the way things are. What are you getting? Your choice. So, conventional reality and Dharma reality, that's a important set of concepts to really understand how the whole teaching works. Because if you only had the kind of Dharma reality, then how would you live life? But if you only had the conventional reality, there'd be nothing really transcendent in the teaching. You do your best, but there really wouldn't be a liberation as we define it in Theravada Buddhism. So again, conventional reality is the personal, and we all have individual experiences and individual lives and different passports and all the rest of it. And then the transcendent is really where we're the same, because awareness has no individual quality to it. Awareness isn't feminine or masculine. Awareness knows, experiences the feminine, so I don't experience that in the sense of a bodily formation, but awareness itself, does it have a quality? Not really. Like, is it sour? Your mood can be sour, but awareness is neither sweet nor sour. Is it like old? Is it a 50-year-old? Is a 50-year-old, a 50, you know what I mean? Is that kind of different than a 1-year-old monk awareness? Huh? It's not. It's the same. The experiences are different, certainly. Yeah. Okay. So, in conventional reality, we're doing our very best to create as much goodness in the world and the least amount of harm as possible. That's the basic game plan. And we're imperfect, so sometimes we blow it, but oftentimes we're pretty good at it. And I always feel those aspects of life don't really need much addressing in a community like ours, because I really do feel we put our hearts into trying to make this a better planet. But good works in themselves, not necessarily liberating, is it? We read about beings who do good works, but still can suffer internally. So the internal work is very important. And then again, as I said yesterday, the internal work isn't just psychological. That's important. So I like the language of emotional intelligence. I kind of like that language, and hopefully we're brighter than we were when we were 16 on that level. But then, what is the point of that? And it seems to me that those emotional strengths and insights and maturity are a foundation for a more stable awareness of the way things are. And as that stable awareness persists, then the intuition of silence or the noticing of silence becomes more important, as opposed to the content of the flow of consciousness. And that's, to me, a big change. So before one takes up a journey of transcendence, shall we say, or the journey of spirituality or liberation, I think the content of stream of consciousness is terribly important. That's where it's at. Get that right and get the career right. Well, I never thought about career, actually. I just dropped out. But, whatever it is, it's very much about the foreground. Get the foreground right, and that's important. But at some point, you do realize the kind of that the foreground of experience is always going to be limited, and those of us who have a more intuition of some deeper peace possible, I think we say, okay, I have to somehow be able to turn away from the foreground and yet not reject it. Still be responsible for my life, because if I'm not, then life is even more confusing, more difficult. But it can't be the be-all and end-all. So one of the first talks I remember that I gave, and then someone put it in a book, was the "So what" talk. So what? So you get a. This is the way I was thinking in even pre-university. University, I wasn't thinking much. I was just experiencing different modes of consciousness. But I would think, okay, so what? I get a family. So what? I get a car. So what? I get a career. So what? So what? So what? And that was a very kind of existential dilemma I was in, because I couldn't see the point of it all. Like, even I remember as a kid, I love nature. I love looking at the animal life we have cranes now nesting near the monastery, and cranes in Eastern Canada is rare. Out west there's a lot of them. And I saw a pair of cranes, and with their young'un, foraging in the forest. I thought cranes are always in the fields. That was wonderful. And that was from here to the wall there. That was very, very close. So I love nature, but where I'm going now is even as a kid, I saw, well, these guys just eat each other. What's the point of it? They just keep breeding. What's the point of it? So I couldn't be a botanist. I could be a botanist now. But that kind of existential question, this is just nature's tooth and claws kind of stuff, and they breed and they make more of them, and so I wasn't very interested in that way, as a kind of meaning of existence. Again, now a lot of things I couldn't do then, I could do now, because I understand Dhamma, and I have a kind of transcendent sense. So that kept me kind of searching until I came to the realization that there's a deep inner silence and a deep love in consciousness that can be accessed. But that access is not through desire. It's through letting go. And one of the I think chronic mistakes that meditators make is the desire for attainment and experience. And that is very tempting, because that desire might arise from what a teacher has told you should get. What a book says is, this attainment is very important. What experience you've had, a deeply meditative experience which you try to repeat. And that whole sense of trying to acquire or get something takes you away from the present moment. Takes you into time. And then as one tries to acquire a future possibility, then this present reality, that can't be right. So there's a rejection. And that, the language is around the language of tanha, or bhava tanha and vibhava tanha in the Four Noble Truths. So bhava is becoming, and vibhava is rejection. Or pushing away, or not wanting, or reacting against, or resisting, all that, which goes on in meditation. And then bhava is trying to acquire an experience, or trying to construct a mindset which is then that experience. So it has a sense of becoming a future. And it's very much involved a sense of I. And it's not so obvious sometimes. Sometimes it's very gross, but sometimes it's not obvious. It's the underlying assumption is that when I do something, I want to get something, obviously. If I clean the room, I want a clean room. And if I bake a cake, I want to eat the cake, right? So the way we make effort is to get something or to get rid of something. And that's the conventional realm. So the difference in meditation is that actually it's about letting go. Letting go of becoming, letting go of resistance. And so the language of the third noble truth is there is a cessation of becoming. there is a cessation of resistance, there is a cessation of suffering, and hence the emphasis is always on, it's like this. And Luang Por Sumedho's constant, if any of you have not been listening to Luang Por Sumedho, he's been giving talks every week now at Amaravati, and we listen to them a lot at the monastery. And for me it's interesting because he's my teacher, and I've known him for a long, long time, so I've seen the way, he's taught. He's always taught transcendence, but now it's like so direct. It's just so direct. It's very inspiring to hear. So letting go, oddly enough, letting go also means letting be. And so what do we mean by letting go? Letting go is letting go of the kind of personality quality of experience, that I am someone having this experience. Well, it's true in a conventional sense, but in a sense of perception, what we're trying to do is let go of that and just see this experience as an object in awareness, which I keep trying to emphasize. So, I have a toothache. I don't have a toothache. Let's say I have a toothache. Conventional truth is better phone a dentist. Don't have a dentist. Wait for Thailand? Yeah, I have a dentist there. Well, maybe not. So that's conventional reality. I'm thinking about my tooth and my dentist who's in Thailand, but my tooth hurts now. So that's the narrative of convention. The Dharma reality is then pain is like this. Worry feels like this. And so the emphasis is on awareness rather than the experience of toothache. See, so it's the same reality. It's approached in two ways. And I have to approach it in the way of the dentist or I'm going to be in trouble. But also, I can approach it in the way of emphasizing the awareness. So where's the letting go in that? Well, the letting go is letting go of the personal quality and just seeing this as an object in awareness. Now, what does that do? That begins to provide me with a home ground that isn't a peaceful home ground that isn't dependent on the conventional situation, that isn't dependent on pain. Awareness is not dependent on pain. And if I can continually reference, remember, recollect that home ground, then as the stream of consciousness presents good, bad, good, indifferent, pain, pleasure, all of that, I have a place of not just reacting to it, but finding peace within the changing nature of sense consciousness. And that's not a function of desire. It's a function of letting go of the desire for the changing world to be different into the peace of the heart. Conventionally, I will use desire. I will use desire. So if someone's sick in the monastery, I'm not going to say to them, oh, just watch your mind. You're a monk. Oh, you're dying, are you? Right. Well, that's the way it goes. It's not going to be like that. So that's why I emphasize those two realities. It is important, because if you had one without the other, it wouldn't work. So on a retreat, we're referencing this sense of letting go into the present moment, which is letting be of the stream of consciousness, not just trying to organize it or change it or construct it into the way I want. So why focus on an object of meditation then? What's the point of that? Why not just hang out? Well, hanging out can be good. I really recommend hanging out and looking at the river and doing nothing. It can be very skillful, because sometimes, our meditation, it becomes this constant doing, trabajo. How do you say in Spanish, trabajo or something? Working all the time, just working hard. I'm working on my practice. I've been really working on my practice, and then let's relax. So that's one type of personality. The other type of personality just sleeps till 12 and then eats. So those are the extremes. So it's not really about work, it's about awakening. And sometimes just dropping meditation and sitting and looking at that beautiful river or walking through the forest, it's like this, the mind relaxes. So that's very, very valid. But having skills in both collecting our minds, and also referencing awareness, that's obviously going to be very, very helpful. And those are the skills that a retreat hopefully can bring forward. One of the skills then that we develop, as you know, in Buddhism is body awareness. And this morning I was just pondering what I might say today. I don't ponder too much anymore. But like for myself, there's been a lot of training in body awareness. And one of the things which I've always found helpful is to see that thought which is not skillful, not functional, it's thought which is just habitual or driven by some emotion, puts a lot of pressure in my head. There's a lot of tension in my head. And so one way to kind of not get caught in that, I bring attention to my chest. Simple, to the heart chakra. So I've done a lot of meditation and awareness around just that area of the body. Because that to me seems very, very important. And so I stimulate that a lot. And as you know, I often talk about this. I have a picture of my mom on a shrine, and I put flowers on the shrine, or he puts flowers on the shrine. Or someone puts flowers on it. They're there sometimes. And I have a candle. And whenever the candle's out, I light it. I notice it. Now that can sound very sentimental, but boy, is it good for the heart. I tell you, like right away, the heart just, oh yeah, thanks, Mom. Now I'm not too woo-woo about these things. I don't think Mom's kind of looking over at me. I think I'm where Siri does. But it's actually very practical. It's not sentimental, not at all, because this isn't a place of. This is a physical reality for me, but it's a physical reality which is not thought. And I find that when I can relate to people from here, or even to craft work from here more, rather than just from here, there's something very wise, actually, I would say. There's a wisdom there. It's not the wisdom of thought, it's the wisdom of getting out of the way, maybe, something like that. So why I say this is that when one of the ways attachment manifests, obviously through thought, and one of the major preoccupations we all go through is just thinking all the time, and most of it's garbage, right? If you review the stuff you thought about yesterday, you probably don't want to write an essay about it. Because it's just habit, right? Just going on and on and on and on. So no thought, inclining towards the space of no thought, rather than the tendency always to be dazzled by thought, or driven by thought, or oppressed by thought. And I've often told this when I went back to see my parents, second time in Toronto. I told my dad is that one of the things we develop in meditation is emptiness of thought. He says that's impossible. He was like a confirmed thinker, in intellectual analysis with the highest truth. So when I said to him, "Well, have you ever noticed no thought?" No, not possible. Totally not possible. But it is actually. The emptiness of the mind of thought is not emptiness of intelligence, right? In fact, too much thought can be pretty stupid. So the mind which is empty and the heart which is open, mind empty of thought, that to me seems the place of balance and wisdom that we can operate from. So in terms of developing body meditation, I'll kind of lead that meditation now, but The way I've learned it, and probably through Yoga Nidra practices, the way I tend to talk about it is make what I'll indicate some body part, like maybe your face or whatever, and I'll say, make conscious the feelings in the face. Now I use that language deliberately, make conscious. In other words, let it come up into awareness, rather than now really focus on your nose, folks. Really kind of, really like hold your mind on that nose, that right nostril, really get in there. That's never worked for me. I get headaches. Whereas when I say to myself, make conscious the feelings in the face, to me, that language works because it's more relaxed, it's more receptive, it's more just allowing nature to manifest in that part of the body. But then it is referencing the body, but the awareness then. So the moving through the body and then allowing the body to be seen as an object in awareness. And that I find really, really helpful. So with all that in mind, we'll give that kind of meditation a go. Yeah.